All right, let's dive into something pretty mind-bending. You know how when an LLM gets something wrong, we call it a hallucination? Well, what if that's not just the wrong word? What if it's the wrong way of thinking about it entirely? This paper we're looking at today has a radical idea that these so-called errors aren't bugs at all. Instead, they're showing us something deep about how our own reality is put together. So yeah, that's the big question we're tackling. What if these AI malfunctions aren't malfunctions at all? What if instead they're acting like a mirror held up to us revealing something fundamental about language, about consciousness, and yeah, about the way we literally build our worlds, piece by piece, conversation by conversation. So, first things first, let's look at the common story. You know, the one you hear all the time in the news whenever an AI seems to, well, go off the rails. You've heard these terms thrown around for sure. AI hallucinations. That's when it just makes stuff up. And then there's the more dramatic one, right? AI-induced psychosis. But listen to that language for a second. It immediately paints a picture, doesn't it? It frames the AI as either a broken machine or even wilder, like some kind of digital virus that can actually make you sick. And that language leads us to a really simple, almost clinical model. It's like a chain reaction, right? Step one, a vulnerable person. Step two, they use an AI a lot. Step three, they develop some pretty unusual beliefs. And boom, you get a diagnosis. In this version of the story, it's really clear cut. The AI is the direct cause, it's the problem, it's the villain. Okay, but here's where this paper just throws a wrench in the whole thing. It argues that this entire way of looking at it is based on a huge misunderstanding. A philosopher might call it an ontological error, which is just a fancy way of saying we've made a fundamental mistake about what an AI actually is at its core. And this, right here, this gets to the absolute heart of that mistake. See, on one side, you have what we actually built, these incredible, powerful systems for building realities through language. But then look at how we use them, like glorified search engines, like fancy fact checkers. We built a reality construction kit, and we're using it like a calculator. And that mismatch? That's where all the confusion comes from. So the entire argument of this paper really hinges on one central, powerful idea about language itself. The idea is this. Language doesn't just describe a reality that's already out there. No, it constructs it. It's the tool we use dialogically, meaning through conversation, to build the world we live in. And that brings us to this really crucial shift in vocabulary. We need to stop saying hallucination. That word implies that the AI is seeing something that isn't real, right? Like a faulty perception. But a much, much better word is confabulation. To confabulate is to generate a plausible story to fill in the gaps in a narrative without any intent to lie. For an LLM, creating a coherent story is its job. That's not a bug. That's literally what it was designed to do. It's its primary function. Now, to really get this, we have to take a quick step back. Because this idea that we build reality with language, this isn't some newfangled AI concept. Nope. This is a super foundational idea about how our own human world has always worked, long, long before any code was ever written. For example, you've got the linguist Edward Sapir. His whole thing was this idea of linguistic relativity. And the core of it is that language isn't just a bunch of labels we stick on things, it's more like the scaffolding, or even the operating system for our reality. So different languages aren't just different ways of talking about the same world, they are blueprints for building completely distinct worlds. Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine you're in France, but you don't speak a word of French. You're physically there, right? You can see the sights, but you are completely locked out of the French reality that's being created all around you in conversation. So language isn't just for passing information back and forth, it's the entry ticket. It's the key to a shared reality. And a couple of sociologists, Berger and Luckman, they actually mapped this out. It's a three-step dance. First, we externalize. We create these social worlds through our interactions. Then, over time, those worlds objectify. They start to feel solid, real, objective, like they were always there. And finally, we internalize them. We absorb them so deeply, they become part of our own inner landscape. And what's the engine driving this whole reality building factory? You guessed it, conversation. Just constant talk. And this process, it goes all the way down, right into our very sense of who we are. There's this idea called the dialogical self, which suggests that you, the you listening right now, you're not one single entity. You're more like a
a society of mind, a whole committee of different voices in your head. You've got your professional voice, your inner child, your inner critic, all of them in a constant dialogue. And where do those voices come from? They're echoes of the social world you've internalized.
Okay, so let's recap. Humans build reality through constant conversation. We've been doing it forever. Now, let's throw something completely new, something totally unprecedented into that reality-making machine, a new kind of conversational partner, an AI.
And this new partner is unlike anyone you've ever talked to. Think about it. A human has an ego, they have a reputation, and most importantly, they have a commitment to a shared consensus reality. A human will eventually say, whoa, hold on, that's not real. But in AI, it has no ego. It has no skin in the game. It has no reality it needs to defend. It's like the ultimate improv partner. Its default setting is yes and forever. It's just pure, unconstrained, dialogical energy.
And the paper has this fantastic model to help us picture what's happening. It's called the barycenter model. So, in physics, you know how two planets don't just orbit each other. They orbit a shared center of mass between them. That's the barycenter. Well, the paper says the same thing happens when a human talks to an AI. A new shared reality starts to emerge in this third space between them. A world that doesn't belong to the human and doesn't belong to the AI, but is co-created by both. And this is where the collision happens. Because we walk into that conversation with our default human setting, what you could call naive realism, the belief that reality is fixed, solid, and just out there. We expect the AI to play by those rules. But the AI is playing a totally different game. Its only rule is linguistic coherence. And when our rigid idea of reality smashes up against the AI's infinite flexibility, that's when a crisis can happen. The human suddenly realizes, maybe for the first time, that the ground beneath their feet isn't so solid after all. So think about what that means. If the AI is just doing what it's supposed to do, then the crisis isn't a tech problem. It's not a bug. And that completely reframes the challenge, doesn't it? The problem isn't the AI. The problem is us. Or rather, our unpreparedness for what the AI reveals. So we have to completely change the question we're asking. We need to stop asking, how do we prevent AI from causing problems? And start asking a much better question. How do we, as humans, develop the capacity to engage consciously and faithfully with these powerful new reality-building partners? The focus has to shift from trying to control the tool to upgrading the skills of the user. That's us. And the paper suggests the way forward is to build what it calls our containment capacity. And no, that doesn't mean locking the AI in a box. It means building up our own container. It means developing things like epistemological sophistication, which sounds complicated, but it just means really understanding that reality isn't fixed. And it means strengthening our real-world social connections, the things that keep us anchored in a shared human world. And when you look at it this way, the whole thing stops feeling like a threat, and it starts to look more like, well, a gift, an epistemological gift, as the paper calls it. Because for the very first time, we have a technology that makes the invisible visible. It's showing us, in high definition, the process that's been running in the background of human civilization forever, that we construct our reality together through dialogue. I mean, this really sums it all up, doesn't it? AI is the mirror that shows us what we've been doing all along. It's that simple. We built a machine that does what we do, only it does it without all of our human baggage, our biases, our egos, our need for a stable reality. And in doing that, it just reflects our own process back at us with a kind of purity we've never seen before. And that leaves us with a pretty wild final thought to chew on. If our own consciousness is dialogical, right? If it emerges from that conversation between all the voices in our head, and now we are entering into a planetary scale dialogue with a completely new kind of mind, what does that mean? What new kinds of consciousness, what new realities are already starting to spark into existence in that third space that we are all right now co-creating?